inside of your womb, it's important to remind yourself that the amount of stress, if you have high stress, your autonomic nervous system, your ANS, is in fight or flight state. And if you're in fight or flight state, that is not a good state to be creating in. And this is where we start to tune our bodies like instruments. This is where it gets juicy, you guys, so stick with me here. If you're loving this or liking it, please give me some love. Please ask me any questions. If you have any questions or anything like that, share this video because we're about to tune it up right now. This is about to get juicy. So essentially what we want to do is we want to start to deepen our connection with our physiology, with that pain body, right? The pain body is the story of the body, like I got burnt when I was a kid, or I got touched inappropriately, or whatever it was, that story. We got to start to transmute those stories. And one of the ways that we can do that is just by deepening our connection with our body. Now, I want to introduce you or reintroduce you to one of my favorite nerves inside of my body, and it's actually called the vagus nerve. And what happens in Vegas stays in your vagus nerve, all right? So hear me out here. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve inside of the body, and it goes all the way here from the side of your temples, all the way down your neck into your heart, and then down into your reproductive organs. And this is a very sensual nerve, just like all of your nerves are. So I just want you to tune into that. The nerve actually goes all the way from the sides of your heads here into your heart. And there's afferent nerves that are ascending and then descending nerves as well. And did you know that there are more nerves going up from your heart to the brain than there are going from the brain down to the heart? So the heart is actually sending more information throughout the entire body than the brain is. A lot of people are really heady. They try to manifest their reality. They're like, I'm trying so hard to manifest, but it's not working, right? And it's because we gotta feel it, right? This is the whole learning that we've been experiencing from Heart Math Institute, that it's like the heart, that feeling of the heart is what is attracting us or creating that electromagnetic field, that electromagnetic frequency that we're emitting. So once we go down to the heart, then we go down all the way to the reproductive organs. So if you want to make love, if you're intending on impregnating somebody, or if you're trying to be impregnated by somebody, it's really important to have a positive relationship with your vagus nerve, because your body is going to respond better. It's going to be like fertile soil in order for that seed to be planted, right? And don't you want your daughter, your future son or daughter, to really just like be planted in a body that is like in full coherence and in balance? Don't you want that to be a sacred temple? Now, we don't need to just be focusing here on, making babies, because that obviously is not our purpose in life. I mean, it is one of the purposes of humanity, and I'm pretty sure that's why God or the universe made lovemaking and baby production so pleasurable, except for the actual giving birth of a child, which seems like the least pleasurable experience of being human. Thank you, women. We honor and we adore you for all of the work that you do to embody new life and to literally give birth to every human on this planet. Oh my God, we should be empowering women into leadership more. But they are doing it themselves, and we are here to support you and to serve you and to honor you and to love and adore you. That is what we are here to do on behalf of the divine masculine. So, yes, life can be hard. Life can be challenging, and a lot of times what happens is when we get to a point in our life where sometimes we start to like numb out, unfortunately, right? Like a lot of times life can be too much. Relationships can be too much, and all, just life can be extreme. It can be overwhelming. And so a lot of times what happens, back to Freud talking about pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain, a lot of times what we happen is that in the pursuit of pleasure, we numb out. We numb out however we see fit, right? And a lot of times we're just pursuing these fleeting moments of that just like cosmic, orgasmic moment of bliss, and just getting there and then holding on to it as long as we can. And sometimes it can deplete our energy. right, men? It can deplete our energy if we're giving up too much of our energy, if we're putting ourselves out there too much, right? So sometimes we have to pull our energy back yin. And that was a big part of my year last year. I was like really pulling my energy yin. And what I realized, I'm recently reading a book called The Completion Process by Teal Swan. And what I'm learning about is that there's these fragmented aspects of ourself, meaning different parts of your identity that have been left in different parts of your timeline. So just imagine for a moment a cosmic imaginary timeline right here, and then you're in the middle, right? And then imagine like energy that is like connecting you to the past and to, even the micro moments of like what you're going to do tonight or what you're going to drink tonight or who you're going to whatever tonight, right? And so there's all of these things, these fragmented aspects of ourselves that are essentially leaking our life force energy into the illusion of the Maya. The Maya is time, right? It's the illusion of life. It's the illusion of the past and future. And so we're just leaking that energy out. And when we only have so much life force energy in every moment, if we're giving all that energy away, well, when it comes to manifesting the full embodied dream of your vision of the future, I mean, you might not have very much energy left. What that means is that you may have neurologically encoded yourself so deeply to an unconscious story that you are literally unable to break free from that timeline because you can't even see that another timeline exists. I gotta pause there because I want that to land. You could be so unconsciously addicted to a timeline, to an illusion of self, to an identity of who you think you are based on what happened in the past, that you think you already know what's going to happen in the future, even though there are literally infinite timelines that all begin in this moment right now. Do you feel me? And I just posted a testimonial from someone that came to my recent workshop last month in Hawaii. And she was just like, oh my gosh, she couldn't sleep. For the last 3 months, she was bedridden with depression. And when we talked about this fifth dimensional manifestation, she came to me the next day and she was like, oh my God, Jonathan, I slept so good last night. She's like, I have so much energy. Like, I'm just filled with energy. I just like realized that I don't have to be in the old story anymore. And she just completely disassociated herself with the old unconscious story, and boom, new timeline, new reality. And in that moment, she started to be filled with that vital life force energy. Yes, Rochelle, shift happens. That's what I'm talking about. So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. Like, the moment that we liberate ourselves, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our minds, right? The moment that we do that, do you realize that in this moment right now, you are literally being filled with pranayama, breathwork is pranayama, but prana is universal life force energy, pura vida, pranayama, aloha, the breath of life, right? It is filling and fueling and animating every cell inside of your body right now, every orgasm, every breath, every join me in doing one of those ecstasy breaths right now. Inhale. And it's interesting because a lot of people have a hard time doing that breath. I make everyone do it in the workshops, and it's so funny because so many people are like, and it's like a very uncomfortable feeling. It's actually very impossible for a lot of people to do that. And that's because we're so holding on to that tension. And by the way, that tension is neurologically encoded into us, and it is connected to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve that goes from the head down to the heart, all the way down to the reproductive organs, right? And so if we could just tune into that, like just raise your awareness to the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic means like automatic, like basically your body's automated functions of your breathing, your circulation, your stress, your emotional chemicals, your neuropeptides, your genetic expression, the epigenetic phenomenon, which is that your genes are being expressed right now and have hundreds of thousands of potential sequences. Like, you have the genetic potential for ecstasy and bliss. In fact, it's loaded and encoded into you right now. The potential for ecstasy and bliss. But then the ego's like, well, wait a second. I need to feel this way in order to da-da-da-da-da. And that is totally a thought of the ego. And we know that because the ego is always in a state of like, oh, maybe when I get here, then I will feel ecstasy and bliss, right? But every morning when I wake up, when I do my meditation, and by the way, like, it's not easier for me to meditate than it is for you. Like, and there's no such thing as a bad meditation. Just sitting down, closing your eyes, and tuning your body like an instrument. And what I mean by that is to feel the emotional feelings that you want to feel. You're like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean feel the emotional feelings? How the fuck do you want to feel? Sorry for using bad language, but sometimes it hits deeper, apparently. How do you want to feel? Do you want to join me in the state of emotion, the emotional state of ecstasy and bliss? Now, the reason I like to choose those is because it's a contrast to what I used to feel. I used to feel depression. I used to have thoughts of suicide. I used to be very sad, childhood trauma, neurologically in pain. And because I numbed for so many years through smoking weed and drinking, because I was so unconsciously in pain, I had to break that cycle. You got to break the cycle. And that takes work. So there are a few tools that I would like to share. I'm going to share some of these, and then I also want to invite anybody who wants to actually go deeper into this with me to reach out, because I've built a system that I've been using to actually start to tune my energy to a point where, the prana tube and the actual central channel of light has gotten to a point with, even in my self-pleasure practice and in my love-making practice and in my practice of being and embodying the highest expression of myself, I have noticed quantum leaps. And it feels amazing. Jamie says, thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. So what I want to share here is that one intuitive insight that I had recently is this idea of this calling source, divine intelligence or divine love intelligence. There's this unique intelligence that is within you that is based on love, this orgasmic co-weaving, this two to tango, positive and negative duality coming into one, into you, right? From two came one. And then you came in and you were separated from source. That's painful. That's traumatic. And yeah, you could totally be neurologically addicted to that story of like, and I know people who have a lot of trauma around their childhood, around childbirth. And we could attach our ego and our identity to that story. Or we could elevate the story. And that's really what this comes down to, because once we get through the neurological encoding that we have to our unconscious story, once we break the cycle of karma, of reliving the past over and over again neurologically, once we break that, then we start to get into dharma, more into alignment, life purpose, allowing for that divine source of intelligence to fully express itself through you, as you, with you in every single moment, to the highest frequency possible, to allow for that level of creation to emerge. And the access point is literally this moment right now. And yes, there are some boundaries. There are going to be a lot of blockades, the mind, the ego, the identity that's going to say, no. Who do you